An elite team of engineers, all men, were in a panic. The control center of Quantum Dynamics, a multi-billion-dollar tech company in the heart of Silicon Valley, was flashing with crimson warnings. The system had been down for over 3 hours, paralyzing operations for a dozen key clients. "If you're so smart, solve it now," yelled Damian Croft, the head of technology, his voice echoing through the tense room. "Fix it now, before we lose everything." At that moment, a young man, Michael, with a thermal backpack still on his shoulder, entered the room. He was there to deliver the food Damian had ordered through an app. He saw the main screen and dared to comment. "Sorry, but that error is caused by a cache memory conflict." His voice, though soft, made all the engineers stop and stare at him. "You tried to reboot the primary server without clearing the pending transaction buffer." A deafening silence fell over the room. 20 engineers with degrees from top universities were confronted by a black food delivery boy who had identified in seconds what they had failed to solve in hours. "How funny," Damian sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "I bet you didn't even finish high school. How about you go back to your deliveries and leave the real work to those who understand it?" The other engineers chuckled, some shaking their heads in disdain. "This isn't like fixing a broken microwave," said Alex, the senior engineer, crossing his arms. "This is an infrastructure system that moves millions of dollars." Michael stood motionless, his dark eyes maintaining a calmness that contrasted sharply with the chaos. "All right," he replied, adjusting his backpack. "But when you find out I'm right, and the system is back up and running in exactly 2 minutes after you follow my suggestion, remember this moment." Damian let out an exaggerated laugh. 2 minutes? This system has been down for 3 hours. You really think a food delivery boy is going to teach us something? Michael smiled slightly, a smile that held a weight that made some of the engineers feel inexplicably uncomfortable. It was as if he was keeping a secret too powerful to be revealed. What secret did Michael carry? What made him so sure of his prediction? 3 days later, Damian couldn't get the moment out of his head. He was haunted by the fact that the system had returned to normal exactly 2 minutes after they followed Michael's suggestion. Damian, with a degree from Stanford, could not accept that a simple delivery boy knew something he didn't. "I got his name," Alex said, entering Damian's office with a mischievous grin. "Michael Johnson, 24 years old, works for 3 different delivery apps, lives in a small apartment downtown. And here's the interesting part." He paused dramatically. He dropped out of college in his 3rd year of a computer science degree. "Dropped out? Why?" Damian asked, interested. Apparently, he couldn't pay his tuition. His low-income family was unable to afford his education. What Damian didn't know was that Michael had been forced to drop out because of a family tragedy. His father had been diagnosed with a rare illness, and Michael had to choose between his studies and working to pay for medical treatment. The choice was obvious. For 2 years, he worked 3 different jobs during the day and studied programming on his own during the early hours of the morning. His desk was a cardboard box in the small room he shared with his father. "People like him think they can just come into our world and talk to us as equals," Damian continued, looking out his 23rd floor window. "They don't understand there's a natural order of things." They had no idea that Michael had secretly developed a route optimization system for delivery drivers that was more efficient than anything Quantum Dynamics had ever created. He had turned his need to survive into a learning opportunity, creating algorithms that maximized his earnings and minimized his work time. The following Thursday, Damian decided it was time to put the cocky delivery boy in his place. He called every delivery app in the city and used his influence to get Michael banned from making deliveries to Quantum Dynamics. He lied, citing allegations of inappropriate behavior and disrespect. Within 24 hours, Michael's account was suspended on all 3 apps. Sitting in his kitchen, Staring at his father's medical bills piled on the table, Michael felt a mixture of anger and determination. His hands trembled as he reread the suspension messages. But it wasn't fear. "What's wrong, honey?" asked his father, entering the kitchen with difficulty, still recovering from his latest treatment session. "Nothing, Dad. Just a problem at work. I'll take care of it." Michael hugged his father gently. "I'll fix everything." That night, Michael turned on his old laptop and started coding. But this time, it wasn't to optimize delivery routes. This time, he was building something much more ambitious, fueled by the humiliation, the looks of contempt, and the doors slammed in his face. Damian had just awakened something in him he could never have imagined. Michael spent the next 2 weeks living a double reality. During the day, he desperately searched for new jobs. At night, he transformed into a programmer building a system that would change everything. What Damian didn't know was that his attempt to destroy Michael had created the perfect fuel for something much bigger. Every no he received in job interviews, every pitying look, every unpaid bill became another line of code in the system he was developing. "What project is that?" his father asked late one night, watching Michael type frantically. "Something that will change our lives, Dad. Trust me." At Quantum Dynamics, Damian was celebrating his victory. During a meeting, he couldn't resist telling the story. "That delivery boy who dared to correct us? He won't be bothering us anymore. I used my contacts to get him blacklisted from every delivery app in the city." Alex roared with laughter. "Perfect. He needs to learn there's a natural hierarchy." What they didn't know was that Jessica, a senior white programmer on the team, was discreetly recording the conversation on her phone. Jessica had been the only one to defend Michael on that fateful day, but she had been quickly silenced. Hearing Damian openly admit to ruining an innocent person's life, she felt she had to act. That same night, Jessica tracked Michael down through social media and sent him a private message. "Hi, Michael. I'm Jessica. I work at Quantum Dynamics. I was there the day you solved our system problem. I need to tell you some things about what Damian did to you. Can we talk?" When Michael received the message, he was initially suspicious. It could be a trap. But something in the sincerity of her words made him agree to meet her at a discreet coffee shop. "He really did that?" Michael asked, listening to the recording where Damian admitted to sabotaging his career. "Worse, he's bragging about it," Jessica replied, her eyes flashing with indignation. "Damian is a narcissist who can't stand being corrected by anyone, especially a black man." She slid a piece of paper across the table. "These are the contact details for all of Quantum Dynamics' major corporate clients. If someone could prove that Damian is making decisions based on personal bias rather than technical competence." Michael took the paper with trembling hands. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "Because I've been where you are. 3 years ago, Damian tried to fire me after I corrected a mistake he made in an investor presentation. That night, Michael worked with renewed energy. Now he wasn't just building a system, he was building a trap. His project had evolved into a security vulnerability analysis platform that could scan any corporate system and identify critical flaws in real time. He had discovered dozens of critical vulnerabilities in Quantum Dynamics' own systems, flaws that Damian and his team had failed to detect. Over the next week, Michael implemented the first phase of his plan. Using the information Jessica had provided, he created fake social media profiles and began connecting with CTOs at Quantum Dynamics' top client companies. His strategy was elegantly simple. He offered free security audits to companies that relied on outsourced systems. What these companies didn't know was that many of the vulnerabilities Michael would find came directly from flaws in the products provided by Quantum Dynamics. "How's the project going?" his father asked one evening. "Better than I expected, Dad. Much better." Michael smiled. It was no longer the smile of a desperate young man. It was the smile of someone who had found his true strength. At that same moment, across town, Damian received the first of many phone calls that would change his life forever. What unexpected discovery will Michael make about Damian? And how will it be the final nail in Damian's coffin? Damian, we need to talk urgently. The CTO of Megatech, one of Quantum Dynamics' largest clients, said on the phone. We've received an independent security report that shows critical flaws in all the systems you implemented. The report is from a security expert named M. Johnson. Do you know him? The phone almost slipped from Damian's hand. M. Johnson. Michael Johnson. The delivery boy I destroyed was back, and he wasn't delivering food anymore. Damian felt a chill run down his spine. He had seriously underestimated someone he should have left alone. But what Damian didn't know yet was that this phone call was only the first in a carefully orchestrated series. Michael was preparing a systematic exposé that would reveal years of technical negligence, decisions based on prejudice and incompetence, masquerading as authority. The following Monday, Damian arrived at the office to find his secretary pale-faced and with a stack of urgent messages. Mr. Croft, we've had 12 contract cancellations in the last 24 hours, all citing the same reason: critical security flaws identified by an independent audit. 12 contracts represented nearly 60% of Quantum Dynamics' annual revenue. What audit? Who authorized this? No one authorized it, sir. A consultant offered free reviews to our customers, and they took him up on it. The phone rang again. It was the CEO of another client. Damian, I'm canceling our contract immediately. This M. Johnson found vulnerabilities that you assured us didn't exist. Even worse, he showed us system logs dating back 6 months. You've exposed us to catastrophic risks and lied about it. Damian hung up, his hands shaking. Michael had access to Quantum Dynamics' internal logs. How was that possible? The answer came in the form of an email sent by Jessica to the entire company with the subject line, "Transparency and Integrity. A necessary conversation." The email detailed how Damian had used his position to sabotage Michael's career out of pure prejudice. Michael Johnson identified a critical problem in our systems in seconds. The email read, "Our response was to humiliate him and then ruin his livelihood. Meanwhile, the same vulnerabilities he pointed out have cost us millions in security breaches." Within minutes, the email had spread throughout the company, then on social media, and within an hour, every tech website in the city was covering the story. Damian burst into Jessica's office. "You're fired. How dare you defame me?" "Actually," said a calm voice from the doorway, "she's protected by employment laws against discrimination, and you're in serious trouble." It was Michael, accompanied by a lawyer and 2 journalists. He was carrying a laptop and a folder full of documents. "Surprise," he said with a serene smile. "I'm here to do that security audit you insisted I wasn't capable of doing." Damian choked. "You can't be here. Security?" "I didn't break in," Michael replied calmly. "I was officially hired by Quantum Dynamics' board of directors to conduct a full audit following revelations of systematic negligence. When 12 major clients cancel contracts on the same day, shareholders start asking uncomfortable questions." The journalists turned on their cameras. One of them asked, "Mr. Croft, is it true that you used your corporate influence to sabotage the career of a qualified black employee just because he corrected you publicly?" Damian looked around desperately. Jessica was smiling. Alex had hidden in his office, and other employees were watching through the glass partitions. "That's a misunderstanding," Damian stammered. Michael opened his laptop. "I can show you exactly what I found on Quantum Dynamics systems. 23 critical vulnerabilities that should have been fixed months ago. Flaws that cost your customers at least $4 million in losses." The screen showed detailed reports, error codes, and system logs, irrefutable evidence. "The interesting part," Michael continued, is that these flaws were easily identifiable. Any competent programmer would have spotted them during a basic routine review. Damian felt the blood drain from his face. Our systems passed all the checks. Your checks were superficial and incompetent, Michael said, his voice remaining perfectly calm. You prioritized speed of implementation over actual security. Exactly the kind of decision someone would make if they were more concerned with protecting their ego than doing their job properly. Mr. Croft, Michael's lawyer spoke up. My client is considering lawsuits for defamation, intentional interference with contractual relations, and racial discrimination. The evidence is substantial. And the customers affected by the technical negligence, added the second journalist, are organizing a class action lawsuit against Quantum Dynamics. Estimated losses already exceed $8 million. Damian slumped in his chair. In less than a week, he had lost most of his clients and the trust of his team, and now faced lawsuits that could destroy him. Why? He asked, looking at Michael with despair. You could have just moved on. Michael closed his laptop and looked him straight in the eye. Because someone needed to show that competence has no color, social class, or origin, and because people like you only learn when the consequences are impossible to ignore. As he left the room, followed by the journalists and Jessica, who had just resigned to join the consulting firm Michael was founding, Damian remained alone in his office, finally understanding that he had underestimated much more than a simple delivery boy. He had underestimated the strength of someone who turned every act of discrimination into fuel for a revenge as elegant as it was devastating. What will happen to Damian? Will he accept his defeat, or will he continue to fight? 6 months later, Michael Johnson sat in his own office on the 21st floor of a corporate building, watching the city through panoramic windows. His company, Secure Code Solutions, had grown from an idea born out of injustice to one of the most respected cybersecurity consulting firms in the country. We have 17 new contracts this month, said Jessica, now the company's director of operations, entering the room with a stack of proposals. 3 of them are former Quantum Dynamics clients who came to us specifically after seeing our work. Michael smiled. And how's our beloved former company doing? He asked, even though he already knew the answer. Damian was fired last week. Quantum Dynamics has lost 80% of its corporate clients in the last 6 months. They're considering bankruptcy. Jessica paused. He's suing former clients for breach of contract, but no one is taking him seriously. I hear he's working as a freelance consultant, but no one trusts him, Michael finished. Interesting how reputation works, isn't it? It takes years to build and seconds to destroy. Damian had discovered the hard way that competence was not a matter of a degree or skin color. After being fired, he had desperately tried to rebuild his career, but Jessica's recording of him admitting to sabotaging Michael had gone viral. Companies that had once fought over his services now avoided any association with his name. His former colleagues, who had once laughed at his prejudice, now pretended not to know him at professional events. Alex had even sent a public message distancing himself from Damian's discriminatory attitudes. You know what the most ironic part is? Said Michael's father, entering the office with a tray of coffee. His health had improved dramatically since they were able to afford the best medical care available. That man tried to destroy you because he thought you weren't worthy of being on his level. Now you're 3 levels above him. Michael hugged his father. It wasn't about levels, Dad. And that sometimes when the system fails to protect us, we have to build our own justice. The phone rang. It was an invitation to speak at the National Technology Conference, the same event where Damian had been a keynote speaker for 5 years in a row. This time, he wasn't even on the guest list. I'm going to accept, Michael told Jessica. I want to talk about how real diversity in technology isn't just a matter of social inclusion, but of technical excellence. Meanwhile, across town, Damian opened yet another rejection letter for a job opening. His bank account was nearly empty. His luxury apartment had been sold to pay off legal debts, and he now lived in a small studio in the suburbs. For the first time in his life, Damian Croft was experiencing what it meant to be judged, not by his talent, but by his actions. And the consequences were far more devastating than anything he had done to Michael. "You turned an attempt at humiliation into a show of strength," Jessica said, watching Michael review new client contracts. "That wasn't just revenge. It was justice." "The best revenge," Michael replied, "is not destroying those who hurt you. It's building something so extraordinary that they realize exactly how small they were when they tried to diminish you." A year after that fateful day at Quantum Dynamics, Michael had proven Damian right about one thing. There really was a natural hierarchy. But it wasn't based on skin color, social background, or where someone went to school. It was based on competence, integrity, and the courage to fight for justice when the world tries to silence you. Secure Code Solutions now employed 45 people, including many talented professionals who had been underestimated by traditional companies. Michael had created not just a business, but a movement that proved that diversity and technical excellence went hand in hand. What if Damian, out of desperation, tries to turn his life around and learn from his mistakes? And what if Michael, in a final act of compassion, offers him a chance at redemption?